Let me get a McPick too.
Introducing a hot new deal at McDonald's that starts with you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Effortless. This is a very, very special Effortless. You are listening to the first ever live Effortless video Skype chat between me, Spigel, and him, Piddle.
The first what?
Well, I mean, of course, you can't see us, so it's not really, you know.
It's not live at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
Live. It's live for us.
Oh, okay.
So I can see you. I can see you right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
A huge difference. We've seen each other before. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And Spiegel is very, very easy on the eyes. For all you ladies out there listening.
Easy to shut your eyes. Also, I'm married. So we have a lot of things we have to talk about. Mostly complaining today. A lot of people were like, "Where's Effortless? We need to get some more complaining into our daily routines," and we are here to provide that for you. Do you want to start? What do you want to start with? We got a list.
We have so much to start with.
Because I don't like this order. Because I wrote things to complain about, and then I have a bunch of things, but then we have like 52 games in 52 weeks, which we're still working on.
Pick something.
You pick something.
Okay, I'll just start.
Okay.
I'll go first. You know what my issue is, Spiegel?
Okay, you have a lot of issues. What's your issue?
I have a huge issue with Nintendo still failing to really push Splatoon merchandise. Did you know that their financial numbers just came in?
I did see Nintendo's financial numbers. Are we going to avail the audience of those numbers?
Let's just say they were very good. Very good indeed.
Well,
do you know how many copies Splatoon has sold in the last, well, not even year of sales?
So, first of all, the numbers for Wii U came out, and it was 12.6 million, which is just sad. After over 3 years on the market now, just 12 million.
It sold as
units.
much as last year.
But that is not to say that the games have not sold. Oh my God! I think someone just had an explosion upstairs or something. Okay, that was terrifying. So anyway, the games have sold really well. Mario Kart has over a 50% attach rate now, having sold over 7 million units, and Splatoon is at a 33% attach rate, having sold approximately 4 million units worldwide.
4 million units. Let that sink in for just a second. Let that sink in. 4 million units. What does that put it on comparable levels to for Nintendo debuts of franchises?
I mean, it's pretty much unprecedented for a debut.
Right?
When was the last time Nintendo had a debut franchise? When was the last time Nintendo had a debut franchise? It's been a while. But still, I mean, when Pikmin first came out, Pikmin was not even 2 million? And that was on a much better selling console, the GameCube, and it was basically a launch title. So people didn't have stuff to play. What else? I don't know. Their franchises are so old that it's like,
yeah. Even if you're looking at debuts, I mean, what?
Pokemon,
the very first Super Mario Brothers.
Pokemon's probably the biggest one they've had since
I believe the first Zelda sold 6 million units. Correct.
So that would be the comparison right there.
So
except the difference is the NES had an installed base of over 50 million.
Yes.
Wii U has a fifth of that.
Yes. And this is what Splatoon has sold. It has sold over 4 million copies in 8 months now?
That's really, really impressive.
And where is the advertising, Nintendo? Where's the merchandise?
They don't need it. Splatoon is in and out. They don't need to advertise.
This is preposterous. It is so successful. It is able to I mean, it just has that much reach that it is able to sell 4 million units on a console that only has 12 million units. And I told you at the very beginning, Nintendo is missing an opportunity. They continue to miss an opportunity. They just announced for Super Smash Brothers, that they're going to release the final batch of DLC soon. With
Bayonetta and Corrin. Very cool characters.
With Bayonetta and Corrin.
Yeah.
Why is Corrin another Fire Emblem character? I think there's now 6 Fire Emblem characters that are in Super Smash Bros. Why is she in it? Or he, or I don't know.
He or she.
While the Inklings are not. This is preposterous. I always saw the Super Smash Bros. Franchise, especially with Melee, as sort of a gateway to other Nintendo series. I mean, it really got me more interested in Earthbound. It got me more interested in F-Zero. It got me more interested in Fire Emblem because I had no interest in Fire Emblem. It really grew my appreciation and my exposure to more Nintendo franchises. And here you have the biggest Super Smash Bros. Title ever. It does not have Inklings coming to it, and this is the last round of downloadable content. So we are not going to see Inklings, period, in Super Smash Bros. So that's part of it.
You are so right. And I totally agree with that. I think it's absurd that the Inkling is not in Smash. They have the Inkling costume for the Mii fighter, so BFD on that. One thing I think maybe they're going to do when they release that inevitable Super Smash Bros. Like Game of the Year edition for the NX when that comes out, is I think they're going to include a couple of new characters that were going to be DLC, but they're just like, we'll save it for the next one so that people who already bought it have an incentive to buy it again. So maybe that's an idea. That doesn't sound too crazy to me. It's not unprecedented, especially not in this stupid gaming industry that nickel and dimes you at every opportunity. So,
and we've talked about how I feel about nickel and diming and how you could even make the next Splatoon free with
oh my gosh,
microtransactions
you were really
for
popular.
all of the outfits. For not all of the outfits. For like, you could still have a good 30 items to wear for everything, and then just add another 100 extra hats, 100 extra clothes and pants and all that. And you could really expand. You could really increase how much money Nintendo is making just through that alone, and make the game entirely free just to get people hooked on the system. Because, I mean, let's face it, if this game is selling 4 million units on a console with 12 million units, what could it do if it's free for a console's sales?
Or even if it wasn't free and it was just a regular game and Nintendo's NX was a success, like say the NX even tripled the sales of the Wii U, which would not even be a success by Nintendo standards, but Splatoon would sell 10 million, more.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's a really impressive story. I think it's very cool that Nintendo has finally had something that's a new IP, because they had Codename Steam and it was a freaking disaster. And then there was, what else? They did another franchise this year that like came out and did absolutely nothing. What was it?
Wish I could tell you.
I might be misremembering. I'm looking at all my games. I don't think. Okay, but let's just say Codename Steam, because Codename Steam came out last year. You already forgot about it, right?
Yeah.
And because it was a complete failure. It was a good game. It wasn't like Splatoon good, but it was still good, and just like nobody cared. So it's nice to see Nintendo having success with like a new franchise that. Hopefully it will encourage them to be more creative and more unique in the future, because people love Nintendo's IP. They just need more new IP more frequently.
It's a very fresh new experience.
Stay fresh.
Correct. So, I don't know. It's killing me that Nintendo continues to miss opportunities with Splatoon merchandise, especially when we have found just how successful new merchandising paths have been for them with Amiibos.
I was just about to say, did you see the regarding Splatoon merchandising and other ways to make money off the game? Did you see that live event they had in Japan with Callie and Marie?
Yes, I did.
That thing was amazing. If you haven't seen this video, go search the Splatoon concert. It's like a 25-minute video on YouTube. And it's just like all these like Japanese people just in this tiny little auditorium with Callie and Marie appearing on these screens, and they're like singing Splatoon songs.
So maybe the issue is not Nintendo per se, but more Nintendo of America that is really.
Well, we know Nintendo of America is run fairly poorly in the marketing department. They don't know what they're doing, considering their complete and utter failure to market the Wii U successfully in America when this is a legitimately like good console, and they totally failed.
Yeah,
they messed
with
it up
great games. I mean, the Wii U is not doing poorly in Japan. We know that much.
It's beating the PlayStation 4.
The PlayStation 4 recently. And
no, recently, like life to date, it's outsold the PS4. And granted, it's had another year on the market, but it's still the Wii U. I mean, it's not this big juggernaut PS4 that everybody in the world owns at this point. So, and the PS4, make no mistake, is a juggernaut. It sold like 36 million units in 2 years. It's ridiculous. Why? I don't know, but that is what it is. So, So yeah, Nintendo, you're not selling hardware, but you're selling software like gangbusters. So that's cool, I guess.
Yeah.
Software's where the money is anyway. So I guess that's cool.
Moving on, would you like to rant about anything, or shall we move on to our
I have a
52
lot
out of
of
52?
stuff. I have a lot of stuff to rant about, so we better get some of this stuff out of the way. First of all, I would like to complain about something that I've always hated this since I was a kid. And that is, of course, the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards that happens every year, hosted by some.
People watch that?
Well, are kids people? I think that's an argument you can have. I don't think kids are people. I think they're
Kids are not people.
They're like extensions of a combination of their parents and their teachers and their friends, but I don't think they
And
actually
ads.
have like
And
yeah,
ads.
and advertisements. Yeah, and that's basically what the Kids' Choice Awards is, right? It's just a big advertisement, just like any awards show. It's just an advertisement for stuff. It's usually rigged, you know.
They've probably found a way to monetize it too. There are probably microtransactions so that kids can spend their parents' money without their parents realizing it, and then their parents will say, "Hey, honey, why do we have a $7,000 bill for the Kids' Choice Awards?"
Oh, you know what? Before I get back to the Kids' Choice Awards, I have to talk about this because I don't think I mentioned this on the show. But we've been getting a lot of rain here lately, which is rare because I live in California. It doesn't rain here. We're in a drought, even though it rains every other day now. And so I drive to work and, it's raining and I've got my windshield wipers on and people are driving badly because nobody knows how to drive in the rain around here.
Yep.
And so when I drive past work, there's this bus stop on the side of the road. And, there's usually people waiting there because we live in kind of an impoverished city. A lot of people use public transportation, which is fine. I don't judge those people. It's unfortunate that they have to rely on public transportation, but it is what it is. So, back on topic, I drive past this bus stop every day on my way to work. And it was raining one day, and, in the gutter, the water kind of builds up because it's a divot and it's, like, down. So, if you drive into that puddle, it's going to splash up all the water onto the sidewalk. And you probably see where I'm going with this. But what happened was I was driving behind this guy in this douchey SUV, and he decided it would be funny to splash one of the people that was sitting at the bus stop as he drove by. Yeah. So that was that. I was so stunned when he drove into that big thing of water and just the water just splashed up onto the guy. I was like, holy crap, like what do I do? I felt like honking at the guy or like rear-ending him or something, but I'm like, I don't want to do that because he'll get out and have a shotgun in his hand and he'll shoot me or something. So
wow.
Yeah, it was probably the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, why would anybody ever do something like that?
Unbelievable. Well, we know that when he plays Fallout 4, he just kills everybody he can.
When he plays Splatoon, he's the guy who sits right next to the base and just like shoots at the base. The opponent's base. He's just like, he's a total douchebag.
He's the team killer that's laughing the entire time by himself.
Oh wait, that's you and
Actually,
me when we both play Splatoon together.
Hey, I'm incredible at Splatoon.
You
Take that back.
Remember when you sucked at Splatoon and then we started dominating together and then you learned all the tricks and now we're both really good.
Now I'm not so bad anymore.
So anyway, the Kids' Choice Awards suck, and I just don't like it. I don't like the idea of giving kids power to decide anything, especially when you look at the nominations are so freaking stupid and fake. It's like, best game, Kids' Choice game, right? You know what the nominations are? It's Minecraft Story Mode, Super Mario Maker, Disney Infinity 3.0, and Skylanders Superchargers. What a joke. Kids don't play any of those games. You know what kids play? They play Call of Duty and they play Assassin's Creed.
Exactly.
So why weren't those games nominated? It would be so obnoxious to see Black Ops 3 win the Kids' Choice Award for best game over like Super Mario Maker.
It would though.
I know, that's the funny thing about it.
That's why the Kids' Choice Awards is nothing but like an advertisement that is controlled by Viacom.
Why do you think that Nintendo wants Mario Maker to win Game of the Year awards over Splatoon? Don't you think Nintendo knows internally that Splatoon is a better game?
Because I guess they looked at Splatoon and said, "Hey, Splatoon has 4 million units in sales. We don't need to do anything with it."
But Mario Maker's
Let's push Mario Maker more.
You saw Mario Maker's sales, right? 3.63 million or something like that. It's really close, and that's been out way less time.
It's got to get that next 400,000.
Yeah, but it's been out for 4 fewer months.
That's incredible, though. That to think that those two games have done so well.
Well, it helps when you're a company that virtually only makes 6 games a year at this point. I mean, and it's the only games that come out for your system. So I mean, people can use that argument. I'm not sure if it's entirely fair, but I see their point. So anyway, that's my rant. I got the guy splashing the guy, and I got the Kids' Choice Awards.
All right, so I think we're done complaining for now.
We'll complain more later.
Yes.
I have a lot more.
We have so many
Don't
things
worry.
we could rant about. I mean, we will rant as we go forward with our 52 out of 52.
Yeah, so for those of you just joining us, we are still doing the 52 games in 52 weeks challenge. I don't know. It's not a challenge for you anymore. You're just blowing through all these games.
I have cheated so much. I mean, it's not really cheating. We said we could have 13 replays, and so I'm taking advantage of that a little bit too much too early, but you know, we'll see how it goes.
So we are in week 5 as of this recording. I work way too much, and I've only beaten 3 games this year.
Yeah, we have not had a show in several weeks.
I know, right? It's been too long. But there is a bright side, and that bright side is that I am replaying Rock Band 2. I'm doing the tour mode with my friend. It's really fun. And I'm also playing Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is going to take me probably 80 more hours to finish. Because I don't think I told you guys this, but I lost all of my data for Xenoblade Chronicles. I was about 25 hours in, and there was an issue with my hard drive, my external hard drive. Lost all the data, all of it. And people were like, well, this is why you shouldn't have done what you've done. And I'm like, yeah, but it's too late because now all my data's gone. So it doesn't help me now. So I started the game over, and I'm actually doing a lot better this time in terms of like understanding the game's mechanics. It really is something that you have to kind of play a lot to understand everything. And luckily, even though I'm only 25 hours in, now I have the benefit of almost 50 hours of total gameplay because of the stuff that I lost. So now I understand everything.
So what is the one thing that you just can't stand now that you are playing it some more? Because that's what we are all about here.
Something I can't stand, Xenoblade
Yes.
Chronicles?
Yeah, because I mean, you have to play through it all again. So now whatever's bad about the game is probably standing out like 10 times as much.
Some of the cutscenes are unbearably slow paced, and that has something more, I think, to do with the issue of having to translate a game into English from Japanese, which is a much more efficient language. So you end up with these long, awkward cutscenes where the characters are saying like, "Oh, I didn't know that," and then there's a brief pause, and it's like, "Okay, go ahead," and then they say another irrelevant thing. So that's kind of annoying, but you can skip the cutscenes if you want. And then the other annoying thing is when you're going from area to area, if you don't take the exact right path, you're going to be going through areas with enemies that are way stronger than you. So you have to kind of, the path you follow is the path of the enemies that are your level. That's how you get to where you're going. But it's easy to get lost by doing that because there's always a shortcut. There's a shorter way to get somewhere, but you have to go through an area with higher level enemies. I guess it's not a bad thing, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It bugs me because I want to get, the world is so big. You just want to get where you're going, and fast travel is just immaculate in this game. It's so great to have fast travel. But yeah, it's just a minor annoyance. But everything else about the game, I know you haven't really gotten into it much, Piddle, but Xenoblade Chronicles X is just a masterpiece of a game, and it's a shame that it wasn't nominated for any Game of the Year awards, and Fallout 4 was, because this game is a much better open world game than Fallout. There's not really any glitches, for one thing. It's just a really well put together open world adventure.
Well, hey, can't you run through cars though?
You can run through cars. But that's a superpower that all these people have on this planet. They can,
awesome.
Yeah, phase
They
through
explain
cars.
it that way too, right?
No, they actually didn't explain that at all. They also didn't explain the whole, like, you can jump from any height and you'll fall and you'll be fine. It's actually kind of a necessity that was part of the gameplay, but all they did was like, oh yeah, you can jump from there, you'll be fine. It was kind of fun. It was kind of funny when they first brought that up. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll try jumping then.
If it was a Xbox or a PlayStation game, I'm sure there would be achievements for jumping off
The highest thing.
Yeah, jumping off all like the cliffs in the game.
Oh, no
or
question.
Something
no
like
question.
that. All right, so that's it for you.
Well, no,
just
that's
Rock
not
Band 3, right?
it. That's not it, because I did play and beat Earthbound. I mentioned that I was doing that in the last show that we did. I did my review of Earthbound for brashgames.co.uk, if you want to go Google search my Earthbound review, feel free. Or I don't know. I'll probably put a link in the description or something.
You should probably put a link in the description. You are not accounting for how much effort our fans put into this show as well.
You know, it's funny because we always talk about how little effort we put into the show, but I think the fans are even worse because, number one, they don't even watch us every time. And number two, like, when we put something up or when we go through the trouble to put a link, nobody even clicks on it. And they tell us, they're like, I'm not clicking on that. It's too much effort. And I'm like, well, you got me there.
And there we go, our mandatory complaint about our lack of fans or how good our fans are.
Yeah, I like
this episode.
I do like the fan bashing segments we do on every show. You guys all suck. Thank you for listening.
So yeah, check out Spiegel's review of Earthbound. It is pretty good. I like it.
I should mention I gave the game a 9 out of 10, which I don't do because the Brash Games uses a 10-point scale, so I'm forced to use a 10-point scale. I don't use a 10-point scale myself when I'm reviewing games. I use a 5-point scale. I gave it a 5 out of 5, but it's not quite like a 10, so I kind of round it up to a 5. So I give it a 9 on Brash Games. It really would be in that 4.5 range if I used a 10-point scale.
Yeah. However, we do not.
Yeah, I do not, because I believe that games should be a more objective. When you review, I think games should be a little more objective, and I feel like the 5-point scale allows for serious objectivity of whether a game is good, great, or bad. So,
yep. Well, we both feel that way.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Earthbound I gave a 9 out of 10 or a 5 out of 5 on my official scale. Rock Band 2 is going to get a 5 out of 5 when I'm like totally finished with it. I'll just tell you that now. And Xenoblade Chronicles X is also probably going to get a 5 out of 5. I'll just spoil that for you right now because it's just so good. I have not enjoyed being lost in a world as completely as I have been in Xenoblade Chronicles X ever. It's just so enjoyable to just run around and just do stuff. Even fetch quests are fun because it's like, yes, I'll get to see a cool new location.
So pretty much
that's it.
A lot of games that are for what they try to accomplish as perfect as it can be.
Oh yeah.
Which is good. It means if it interests you at all, you need to go play those games. Just period.
Absolutely. All right, so you played a lot of games.
I beat 4 games, but I don't know. They were all relatively 3 of them were shorter, and then one was quite an undertaking, I feel like, because it was an RPG.
You actually, let's start with that because you actually are doing quite a few RPGs in a row here. If you do intend to complete this insane project that you've started. Now, what is this project?
So this project is I've only ever beaten one Final Fantasy game. I need to play and beat all of them to have a greater appreciation of the series.
So that's 14 Final Fantasy. Are you going to play like the MMO ones or no?
I am not going to play the MMO ones. There's just no way.
So you're going to play 1 through 14 or 1 through 13. You're not going to play 14.
I'm not going to play
the main
X2.
series ones.
I'm not going to play 13.2 and 13.3. I'll say that right now.
They came out with a 13.3?
Yes, there's Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy something, I don't know.
Yikes.
Yep. It's only like $20 on Steam, I believe. If you're interested.
The way you talk about Final Fantasy 13, that sounds like a ripoff. So, I know you didn't care for Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, that's the one game I don't know if I'm going to actually beat it. I will once I get to it, I will try to play it. But for anybody that's a fan of Final Fantasy 13 out there, I'm sorry. I am in that group that really, really disliked Final Fantasy 13. I've tried twice to beat it now, both times getting to Grand Pulse before I just was like, no, not doing this anymore.
Your dislike of Final Fantasy 13 is so strong that you've gotten into like heated arguments with people in the ZBN about it and just like ruined relationships forever. So I hope you're happy.
I don't consider those relationships ruined. I consider them strengthened. Because
just like when we had our political discussion
we were able to talk
morning.
About something that I just loathe without me, I don't know, going off the deep end.
Well, they would argue that aspect. But so anyway, so you beat Final Fantasy, the first one on NES. What did you think of it?
I loved it. It was fantastic. I going to play it, I really thought I was going to hate it. And true story, I played the game I restarted the game like 3 times before I finally figured out that you could change how quickly the battle text went. The default speed for the battle text is so god awfully slow, and I thought it was just an issue of the system at the time. I thought it was just like, okay, this is just the Nintendo Entertainment System really ruining this entire experience because it's just not powerful enough to handle it. No, that wasn't the case at all. I eventually figured out that I could turn up the speed of the battle text so quickly that I could hardly even catch it. I did sort of cheat as I played through the game. I used a guide or a walkthrough to sort of help me through, and I'm glad I did, because I mean it's definitely a product of the times. It was very I don't know if you can even say cryptic, because sometimes it just didn't give you any direction at all.
Yeah, I think it was the Angry Video Game Nerd who said there's a difference between cryptic and just effing impossible.
Yeah. And so
something like that.
There were parts of it that were like that and just really didn't give you much direction. The party I ended up using was I had 2 fighters, a white mage and a red mage. From my
what were they named?
The monk is pretty much worthless and the thief is pretty much worthless because they just don't have any health, whereas the fighter has a lot of health, also hits incredibly hard, and late in the game earns the ability to use white magic or some basic white magic. So he can use cure spells to heal your party, which are pretty important. The only really big issues with the game that I had was the lack of safe spaces or safe spots. You could only save in the overworld with a tent or a cabin or a house, which are the same, and those heal your characters, or you can save in an inn, and that is it. Those are the only ways that you can actually save in this game. So yeah, that was one issue. Next issue is there's a complete lack of item space.
In RPGs, that's the word. That was, yeah. I didn't bring it up in my Earthbound review because I thought it was trivial. Actually, I did bring it up. I said early on you don't have enough item space, and you get all these useless items throughout the game that you have to keep, and it just sucks because you just keep running out of space. You're like, I need more items. Lack of item space is one of the worst things in an RPG.
So with this one, it's not like regular items like potions or whatever that you can run out of space with, because, well, there really aren't a lot of potion type items to use in this game. There's only a potion to heal you a little bit. You never get a potion that heals you a lot in the game. I don't know why. You have the tent, house, and cabin, which you use in the overworld to save, and each heals a certain amount of HP. You have an item to cure poison. You have an item to cure your characters if you get stoned by a Medusa or some other equivalent enemy, and that's pretty much it as far as the actual potions that you can use. There's no magic point potions or anything like that. So when you run out of magic, it really sucks because you have one option, and that's pretty much to go back to a town and go back to an inn and heal. That's the only way that, at least that I knew of, to restore your magic points.
Yeah.
And then I think, so the only stuff that you run out of space with is your equipment items. And I guess if you go with some classes, it's not going to be an issue. If you did use a monk, you don't even need to wear anything, I don't think. So
I love running around not wearing anything.
So you can pretty much run around the entire game naked and save a ton of money because you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to buy any magic for it. You don't have to buy any new armor for it, for your monk.
Could you imagine if real life worked that way?
Yeah.
Just don't have to, you don't have to wear clothes and you just save money. It's great.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Or you could just wear the same pair of clothes all the time.
Yeah, like in cartoons. I think they've got it right. I really do. I mean, I don't know how often they do laundry or if they ever do laundry. Their clothes always look fairly clean.
Buy your one outfit in bulk, and you're good for life.
You know, I've never met anybody who actually dressed themselves that way, but I feel like if I did, I'd have an immense amount of respect for that person. I mean, like, you don't even care what anybody thinks of you. That's fantastic.
Sort of makes me want to do it.
I kind of want to do it too. Just kidding. I would never respect you no matter what you did.
So yeah, those are the only issues the only problems I had with Final Fantasy. But the rest of it, I really enjoyed. It didn't matter that some of the like elemental weakness stuff didn't work in the game. So you could have like a fire sword or an ice sword, and it's supposed to deal extra damage against fire and ice enemies. Didn't work that way. And it sucked how late in the game I had to like drop weapons that I perceived as like awesome. Well, I didn't have to drop weapons. I had to drop like armor equipment items because I just didn't have enough space for them, and that sort of sucked because I was like, well, I sort of want to keep this, but I can't because I don't have any space. So actually, like going into the last bit of the game, I actually sort of again I went and I looked at a guide, and I haven't done something like this in a while, and I actually like planned out exactly what items I was gonna like pick up in the last dungeon, what items I wasn't gonna pick up, so I could have like the ideal
inventory.
Yeah, the ideal inventory for my characters at the end of the game. But what it does well, what it does really well is the beginning of the game, you are so dreadfully weak, and you just get steamrolled by the enemies so much.
I like hardcore RPGs like that start you out like you can't kill anything.
Yeah.
Like Earthbound, you're fighting crows and dogs just because you can't fight anything else.
You're missing your attacks. You like try to attack, and your character misses the attack. Not the case when you get to the end of the game. Like you hit everything. No problem at the end of the game. You do like no damage. You're like constantly running to town to heal because like after 3 battles, your party's essentially wiped out. If you started the game and went directly to like the first dungeon without leveling up at all, good luck to you. There's a good chance that you will die. So yeah, the game starts out and you just feel so weak at the beginning of the game, and then as you're getting more and more items, especially towards later towards the end of the game, you feel like an unstoppable force. There's a midpoint in the game where there are some enemies that can cast a spell and you have no way to protect against it. They'll cast a spell where you can insta-die, and that is probably the worst part of the game because like there were a couple points in the game where I got like all the way to the end of a dungeon, and I'm like, there was a specific instance where I was 1 tile away from like the final boss area, and I ran into an enemy that had instant kill moves, and they killed my white wizard, who was my only form of reviving the rest of my party if you die, because there's no item to revive your party.
It's like when Paula dies in Earthbound, and you're like, crap, we're screwed now.
Yep. It was just like, I'm screwed. Like I have to leave this dungeon because there's no way I can like continue in this, in this dungeon and not die. So that was sort of tough, but like by the end, with the class change, the optional class change in the game where like your characters get bigger and they just look more BA.
Yeah.
That makes you feel more powerful, and they become stronger too the more you level up from that point on. The items you get, like you start getting some items that like really help you heal your characters a lot easier in battle. I mean it just does a great job of making you feel like an unstoppable force once you get towards the end of the game.
And RPGs that do that, excuse me, RPGs that do that, I feel like they really get it right. Well-paced RPGs that make you feel like you're growing as you're playing the game, I think that's a really cool thing that RPGs can do. And the ones that do it really well are the ones that are generally considered to be the best RPGs that are out there.
And that is what the first Final Fantasy just absolutely nailed. Is I'm at the end of the game and I'm loving it. It doesn't even matter to me that it's really easy, that I go into a battle and I know exactly what I'm going to do every single time.
You just feel like a boss, and that feeling is invaluable.
And I mean, at least until you get to the final boss, or in one of my cases, the second to last boss of the game, I discovered the first in the series, like the real boss. In the first Final Fantasy, it's called War Mech, and it's a boss that's actually harder than the final boss of the game. Sort of like the weapons in Final Fantasy VII, which most people,
or the Thunderbird in Zelda 2. That's the one I always think of. That boss
which
was
most
so...
people are very familiar with, and it was like a 1 in 64 probability that I was going to run into this enemy on the path to the second to last boss of the game. And what happens? I run into this enemy and I like start attacking it, and like 1 turn later, after half of my party is dead, I'm like, uh-oh, I need to try to run away from this battle. And I tried to run away from the battle, failed, died, lost like 2 hours of progress, and I was very unhappy.
I hate the save system in those old games where it's like, sorry, now you have to go all the way back. It's like,
yep.
It's so unforgiving.
So that was like, again, like I said, the save system is my only major issue with it. But I mean, I went back. It sort of sucked, and part of me was like, I don't want to play anymore. But the other part of me was like, you know what? Big deal. Like, now I know if I see that enemy again, I just run away, which is exactly what happened, because I ran into it again.
Wow.
Next time I went back, and I had to run away from it. So
overall, just to be clear, I also am intending to play all the Final Fantasy games with you, but first I got to play Xenoblade Chronicles. So when I'm done with that, maybe I'll get into another hardcore RPG. But we'll see how I progress. I'm gonna pick and choose which ones I play, I think. But we'll see.
Well, yeah. So I already started on Final Fantasy 2. I started on the translated, hacked version of it.
Government could be listening.
Nintendo Entertainment System. Just because I really want to see how the series really progressed. I don't want to see how it progressed through remakes.
Yeah.
So that is my motivation behind doing it like that. But yeah, after like halfway through playing Final Fantasy, I was like, so this is why this series really took off, and like why this game was such a massive success, because it was a really good game. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I played it. It's like 26 years after it came out in the United States. I finally played it, and I'll tell you what, this is my score. I give it a 5 out of 5. Even with being cryptic, even with not having like the most developed story. Like the whole story essentially takes place in the final battle of the game.
Yeah.
But for me, it didn't matter, because I mean, the game did enough where it felt like you were getting better and better as you play throughout. Like it already had the airship in the very first game, where you can fly around in the airship and access anywhere. You have the character upgrades. You have the really, really good items towards the end of the game. It absolutely nailed feeling like you were becoming more and more powerful and capable as you went through the game. So, yeah. Awesome. And it has great music.
The music was so good they made a game out of it that you hated.
Yes.
So anyway, you liked Final Fantasy. You played 3 other games. I just want to touch on them quickly. They were all replays for you. Just a couple sentences on each one, if you please.
All right. So I did another sort of series playthrough, except I ignored everything after this generation, and including some of the games in that generation. I played through the Sonic the Hedgehog games, the Genesis Sonic the Hedgehog games.
Just the classic Genesis.
Yes.
Sonic, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles, right?
Yep. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles. I did those 2 locked on. Let's see. Sonic the Hedgehog, the very first Sonic the Hedgehog it's still frustrating that you don't have like an instant speed dash in the original Sonic the Hedgehog, but it's appropriately difficult. It has multiple paths that you can take in most of the levels, which I really liked. That great like vertical element, you don't have to speed through it. I've never been somebody to really speed through the Sonic games, even though everybody thinks that that's what Sonic is about. I've always been much more deliberate, especially because I wasn't trying to go for speed. I was trying to collect all the Chaos Emeralds in all of the games as I played.
Because speed is the reward in Sonic, not the main gameplay aspect, right?
I feel like it. Yeah.
We've talked about this.
Yeah, it's a reward, especially in Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So, with the original Sonic the Hedgehog, you have to play very slow and deliberate if you want to collect 50 rings and not lose those rings by the time you reach the end of the level and start doing the special stages. So, played through the first Sonic the Hedgehog, really loved it. I love the underwater levels in the Sonic the Hedgehog games, even though they're so frustrating at the same time, and when you start to drown, it's the worst.
Nobody likes water levels in anything.
Yeah, but I enjoy them. It's just how they mix up the gameplay.
So the original Sonic, your score?
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
Yeah, it was really good. There were some things I didn't like its insane difficulty even very early in the game. It's really sort of unforgiving, especially the second level. I think the Marble Zone.
Hey, that's classic platformers, baby. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I also gave it 4 out of 5. I'll just get that out of the way right now. I think most people just sort of put Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on a pedestal above the other games because they never actually played Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Just for the record, like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, those games each sold like a little over 1 million units, or Sonic the Hedgehog 2 sold like 4 or 5 million, something like that. So more people just played Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That's just the case. And they didn't really
kind of like with Ocarina of Time and how people overrate it compared to Majora's Mask, even though Majora's Mask is objectively better.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
All right.
So yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, it has this like crazy difficulty spike. The method of getting all the Chaos Emeralds, I did not really like it because you have to collect 50 rings and then like jump through a checkpoint marker, and you're just like scouring the level for these checkpoint markers, but you always have to collect 50 rings before you do it. So it's very tedious in terms of like, okay, I have to go back, find more rings, and now I'm going to go to the next marker that I found. You have to make sure that you don't run through markers too quickly.
Yeah.
Some of the levels I felt were just too linear. The big thing is with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is it has way too many moments where you just get cheesed, and the game cheats you, and you will run into an enemy, and it's just pretty much unavoidable, especially Metropolis Zone, which is incredibly unforgiving.
Real quick, I just found this. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 sold 6 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 sold just under 2 million.
Okay, so yeah,
that's why.
Even a bigger disparity than I realized. So that's pretty much my only issue with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is it has a lot of those, like you're running along and then you like start bouncing off some springs and then you run into one of the praying mantises and it's completely unavoidable. And there are like many times in Green Hill Zone or Emerald Hill Zone, where I would just get sort of screwed by one of the hornets buzzing around, and it would like shoot.
Is it similar to Donkey Kong Country where it's like a trial and error type of thing? Because I got that sense a lot when I was playing through Donkey Kong Country Returns, is that like you have to memorize what the stage is asking from you, because otherwise it's just like totally unfair and you're not gonna.
There are things where like I knew it was coming up and I still could not avoid it. So
that sucks. That sounds terrible.
And it's just like, well, I'm gonna lose all my rings here. And I mean, like, I guess it's one of the good things about Sonic is as long as you have one ring, you'll pretty much do anything. Yeah. And maybe I'm still stupid. Like the one Robotnik boss that has the eggs that surround it, I still don't know how to hit that Robotnik boss without getting hit. So I always lose rings on that boss. If you know how to kill that boss without getting hit, tell me, please, because I feel like a scrub still when it comes to that one.
We don't have anything for our listeners to comment this week.
Yeah.
We need a question.
So comment on that. Anyway, sorry, that's too much time on Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
So what's the score?
I'm done. Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the best.
Hey, what's the score for Sonic 2?
4 out of 5. Already said it.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. I wasn't listening.
Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best. I think even if you take them separately, they're still 5 out of 5 games. Just the way that they handle exploration, you don't need to backtrack to collect rings. You just find the super rings that are hidden throughout the levels. I think it's awesome that the games really work the vertical elements. They work and the multiple paths. Some of the times the paths go down to one path, but it still feels like you sort of have a lot of choice in the game. Yeah, you have the super rings to jump through. Maybe the special stage isn't to your liking, but I don't know. I really like the special stages. I think they're comparable to the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 special stages. They're just a little bit different. All the choices, like you can play through it as Sonic, you can play through it as Tails, you can play through it it as Knuckles. They all have their own different paths. They have some differences in boss enemies. I actually glitched my way in Marble Garden Zone. I played through the entire game as Knuckles, by the way. I glitched my way in Marble Garden Zone so that I could play as Knuckles with Tails against Robotnik instead of just Knuckles by himself. It sort of stinks that I played as Knuckles because one of my favorite parts of Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the Doomsday Zone when you play as Hypersonic at the very end. It's absolutely epic, total epic final battle. But with if you play through as Knuckles, you also get the chance to play through and fight against the Mecha Sonic, and Mecha Sonic turns into like Super Mecha Sonic. So it was pretty cool. I don't know, just a great game. All three of them are great games. Sonic 3 and Knuckles is an absolute masterpiece. There's so much replay value there. There's so many different paths you can take. Even now, it felt really, really fresh going back. And I've played through Sonic 3 and Knuckles I don't know how many times. I've completely filled up the save files in pretty much every iteration that I've played. So that's it.
Did you score that one?
Did I give it?
No, you didn't.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. 5 out of 5. I mean, it's. I'll be honest. I mean, we talked about Sonic 3 and Knuckles when we talked about our top 50, or I did.
Yeah.
And it was my number 3 game of all time, and it pretty much retains that spot. It was just a total blast to play. Yeah, and I just love how clever this series is. I love how Sonic 3 and Knuckles added the different bubble shields to it, and yeah, that's all.
All right. So that's our 52-52 for this week. If you are playing 52 games in 52 weeks, please avail us of your stories in the comments section because we love it. And, we're in week 5. It's not too late to jump on board.
Yeah, some of you said that you were going to join us, and we have not heard anything from you yet.
Well, to be fair, we've only done like one video this year. So
I guess this is only, the third video of the year, and we sort of went like over 2 weeks without doing a new video. So
look, I'm busy, people. I don't have time for all this crap. The ZBN is producing tons of quality content. Go listen to frickin' Across the Pond. That was a good show, even though it starts with like a minute and a half of just QJ and Dan giggling. It was still a good show. Anyway, I can't remember what we were talking about, but bottom line, join us with 52-52 because it's fun. It's a good way to clear your backlog if you've got a massive one like we do. And
it is a great way.
My backlog is actually probably bigger now than when I started, but it doesn't matter. Just get those games out of the way.
And for me, it was like part of the reason that I replayed all the Sonic games is we have 13 replays for the year. I replayed them because I knew I could get through them quickly, and I did. They each took me like 2 hours.
Basically,
maybe.
you want to build a big lead for when you're in the midst of your Final Fantasy like expedition.
Yeah. So I mean, like I finished 8 games already this year. We're only
5 weeks in.
Just getting into February. So hopefully the idea is, I mean, I'm playing Final Fantasy games. This will allow me to sort of take up to like 3 or 4 weeks with the Final Fantasy game if I just don't have time.
Yeah. But anyway, we're gonna move on. I have a couple more things to complain about before we're done. I don't have a segue for this, but I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time, ever since ESPN started airing esports. And I'm hesitant on how to approach this because I understand our audience and I understand that I'm going to make a lot of people very unhappy with me when I talk about this because I am not a fan of the esports. I think that it is not a sport. That is my opening statement. So fire away.
Down.
Fire away. That is my first thing. It is not a sport. But
what about all the hours of practice that they have to put in, Spiegel?
You can practice anything. You can practice a musical instrument. You need to have a lot of dexterity in order to be a good guitar player.
Okay, here's another question.
Is that a
chess
sport?
A sport?
No, chess is not a sport. It is not active.
Actually, I'm going to agree with you very much. I don't believe it is a sport. I believe it's a competition.
I also feel like they need to be okay with that. Like, why all of a sudden all these nerds and these dorks, they're like, which I am a part, for your information, They're like, we deserve recognition as a legitimate sport. Why do you want to be a sport? You've shunned sports your entire life. You got picked last for football or whatever. Like, you didn't care about sports. Be an official
competition, right?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with you being an official competition. You guys are legit. You get tons of viewers, and they're always like, well, we get more views than the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, because every country watches esports, just like every country watches the World Cup. You know, the arguments don't really make any sense.
Yep.
But, so that's my first point, is that esports is not a sport. Like, playing games is not a sport. And that's okay. It's okay that it's not a sport. Like, you guys get so up in arms about it. And again, I'm making everybody really mad right now. They're like screaming at their computers because that's what esports fans do, because they get really mad about stuff. And now they're even madder. So congratulations. My other point is that I don't like ESPN airing esports. I didn't love it when they aired marching band competitions, you know, as part of the drum corps thing.
Yeah.
Even though I was part of a marching band, it's just not something that belongs on ESPN. ESPN has already like started to completely slide into irrelevance because their Monday Night Football games suck and SportsCenter is terrible, and all their programming is just filled with idiots who have no idea what they're talking about.
They just need to create Cyber Stuart Scott.
So, that's kind of offensive, isn't it? That's
Wait, isn't that what we're all about here?
I don't know.
I'm just saying that, like, that would be better than what ESPN has now for SportsCenter.
Really? Yeah. They could just put all of the statements he ever made when he was alive together into one like computer program, and then they'd still have better programming. Just having him say random things on the air, it would be great. So yeah, I see ESPN covering like the Halo 5 Guardians tournament, and I'm like, I'm sure this is getting views, but I don't want to see this. Like, man, it's such a slippery slope, because you start airing this stuff. I mean, how long is it before they do start airing? I mean, they already air the stupid spelling bee every year, which is also not a sport. It's a competition, which again, I love competition. I think competition is fantastic. But ESPN is supposed to be about sports. And even though esports has the word sports in the title, I don't see it as one. And for those of you who think it is, good for you. More power to you. If you want to make an argument in the comments, you go right there. We'll have a civil discussion. You can yell at me, and I will speak rationally to you, and we'll see how that goes.
Perfect.
So that is my rant. And I've wanted to say this for a very long time, but I've just never known how to say it in a way that didn't make people very upset. And I still don't know. I was just like, screw it, I'll just make people upset. So if we get popular off of this rant, I would love it. Because this rant had absolutely no substance. It was just basically me saying, I don't think esports is a sport.
So, you know, you talk about arguing rationally. I will argue rationally or irrationally about one thing in the comments with you guys.
Okay.
And that is, I have to mention it because, I mean, now is the most appropriate time. After playing through the Sonic Genesis games, I'm just so disgusted with what Sega has done with the Sonic series. It is just it's a mess, and I feel like they've really just completely lost sight of what made those Genesis Sonic games so great. And
it's funny, right? Because every time they make a new Sonic game, they're like, we're going back to Sonic's roots,
and they never do. They lose sight of what his roots are. They've become a victim of their own marketing machine for the Genesis era, which was like blast processing and Sonic is so fast, Mario could never do this. And so they're just a victim of it. They think Sonic is all about being fast. What did I just say about Sonic?
That's a really good point, because they have become victims to their own marketing campaign. They now think that they have to tailor it to that because that's the perception. But that's crazy. That's a really good point.
There is so little exploration in the modern day Sonic games now. It's like, hey, you go fast and now you're going to get scored on how quickly you beat the level. And they're putting so much focus on like the speed aspect. The speed can be a part of the game. You can have that as a part of the game. Like you can have missions where you go back and replay levels and get scored for it. That's a great idea. That is another way to add more content to a game and have people replay it and really fall in love with it. But like I just said it, those old Sonic games, they were about exploration. If you were gonna try to become Super Sonic in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it was all about, exploring the area with Sonic 2, collecting the coins, but then finding as many of the lamp posts, I guess I'm just going to call them that you could.
Yes.
And Sonic 3, it was about finding as many of the super rings as you could. And even when you became Super Sonic in Sonic 3, one of the things I loved about it is it instantly gave you 50 coins, so you could instantly become Super Sonic or Super Knuckles or Super Tails, whatever it was. And they had multiple paths. These games had multiple paths. It wasn't like you're going down the same path. Pretty much every Genesis game had multiple paths that you could go in. Some levels, they might have areas where it would funnel you down one path. But in the grand scheme of things, you had multiple paths. So it was about like careful platforming so that you could collect rings, because you needed to collect rings. And it was about exploration so that you could find ways to collect all the Chaos Emeralds. It was about branching paths. It was about like the power-ups. The power-ups mattered in those original games. Nick and I sort of got into an argument about this specifically with the 3D Sonics, and he said like he liked the homing attack in the 3D Sonics. I feel like the homing attack makes things easier. And like that's the idea, is like, well, we don't want people to be frustrated with killing enemies because whatever. It's since when should it be easy to kill enemies in Sonic? Like, isn't that part of it? Like the risk of losing your coins if you do a bad approach on attacking an enemy. So have the homing attack as a power up throughout a level. Boom, there you go. A reason to get the power up so you don't lose your coins so that you can access the special levels. There you go. And get away from the speed. I mean, speed is good. You can have speed be a big part of the games, but like there needs to be more platforming within these games. I feel like Sonic the Lost World sort of went down the right path with it, but I also sort of screwed it up because it had a run button, and a lot of people just did not like that.
Yeah.
So that's my rant. It's Sega. It's not about the speed. It's about the whole thing. It's about speed. It's about platforming. It's about exploration. It's about multiple paths. It's about all of those things.
So that one just sort of came out of nowhere. We went from esports to back to Sonic with like absolutely no. It was almost like I cut a portion of this show and I just stuck it right in the middle of your Sonic stuff, and that's exactly what happened right there. So we're gonna close the show. We're pretty much done actually. This is a really well-timed episode. I don't feel like we're rushing at all, but like we're almost done. So I have one last thing I want to complain about today, and we love food, right? We've talked about our favorite fast food restaurants in the past.
This is essentially what our show has become, right? We just talk about food all the time.
And games, yeah. A little bit of games, a little bit of food, a little this and that, Anyway, so lately, one of my least favorite fast food establishments, which is McDonald's. I don't know if I've talked about that on this show, but I really don't like McDonald's. I don't like their image. I don't like how they pander to lower class people, clearly, if you watch the commercials. And this latest one, which I'm going to cut into this video right here. You're going to get the video of this commercial right here. As soon as I finish talking, you'll get to watch it, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Let me get a McPick too.
Introducing a hot new deal at McDonald's that starts with you. Now get 2 delicious tastes for just $2. The McPick 2 menu. Mix and match new melty mozzarella sticks with a juicy McDouble, or golden fries with a classic McChicken. Only $2 for any 2. Hurry in and choose your faves for just $2. It's the tastiest deal yet. Just ask for it.
Okay, so you've seen the commercial, right, Piddle? I know you didn't just watch it, but I just super cut it into our show. So you've seen the McPick 2. Let me get a McPick 2. That crap. And then
absolutely, that's pretty much every McDonald's commercial.
So I'm gonna plug a website right now that he's not like a friend or anything, but it's called WalterFootball.com, and he does like football stuff and draft stuff and stuff like that. But he also has a feature called Jerks of the Week, and he did a Jerks of the Week for the McPick 2 commercial, and I thought it was so funny that I was like spurned on to rant about it on today's show. He did this great bit on how like the whole commercial is basically just it's just offensive. And I'll share what I wrote. I posted on the article on his Facebook post rather about the article.
Well, I will say the one thing I like about the McPick 2 while you look for that, and that is that the McDoubles are $1 only again if you get 2 of them.
Yeah, so
I love McDoubles. By the way, if you do go to McDonald's, and I know I'm just totally going against you because you don't like McDonald's, but get a McDouble with cheese and onions only. It is delicious.
No, I mean, the deal is amazing. I don't really care for McDonald's food, but the food isn't really the problem I have with the company. It's the image of the company.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I can go there without feeling like white trash, because every time I watch one of these commercials, you get freaking white trash people in the commercials. Like, and it's just like, oh, the woman comes up at the very beginning of the ad, she's like, let me get a McPick 2, and she like flashes the Crip sign, and it's like,
get a
okay.
McDouble. Cheese and onions only. You'll love it. Actually, I wonder if I could get a McDouble, cheese and onions only, and ask if I can get Big Mac sauce on it. I wonder if that's possible.
So this is what I said on the.
I'm gonna try.
This is what I said on the article that Walter wrote. I said when this commercial first aired, I literally had to mute the television. The commercial is offensive. It's pandering, stupid, and makes me feel like I'm back in a 3rd grade assembly with rappers telling me to stay in school and don't do drugs. It feels like one of those old like DARE programs. It just, I watch it and it literally makes me angry, because it's just like, I am not stupid, McDonald's. Stop pretending that I'm stupid. Don't give me an offensively dumb jingle and like expect me to buy your stupid product. The worst part is it's gonna work because this deal is amazing, and they're gonna credit the commercial. It's ridiculous. I hate this. You get a McChicken or golden brown fries and a frickin' McDouble and a chick with a mozzarella stick in her teeth. Okay, there will also be a link to the Jerks of the Week article in the description as well. So I'll find that one, and I'll put that in there.
Well, do we have anything left for our listeners this week,
No,
Spiegel?
I'm all ranted out. The McPick 2 ad just made me so mad. I have to go play Xenoblade and, like, rectify that. I don't know how much time I'm going to get in today because I got to go to work in a little bit, but...
Come back next week. I think we'll get another show up next week, right?
Oh, yeah, we'll get another show next week for sure. I'm fired up to do it.
We'll have some new rants. I did not even actually get into this week's Piddle's quest for mobile gaming.
Oh, yeah, you're still doing that then?
I still am. I have played another game. I got a little distracted, but I found 15 minutes to play another mobile game, and the impressions will be good.
So I just want to recap today's episode specifically for one of our listeners, and his name is Voyager G0, because apparently he doesn't even listen to us anymore, because all he does is go on other ZBN videos and say that we're boring and lifeless and, like, stupid and all this crap. So this is for you, Voyager G0. You tell me that our show today was boring. We talked about a hologram version of dead Stuart Scott. We talked about the McPick 2 commercial and how much it enrages me. We talked about how I don't think esports is an actual sport, which is going to offend everybody in the world. We talked about, we had like 15 minutes on the best Final Fantasy game ever. And what was the other thing we ranted on? Oh, the Kids' Choice Awards and how rigged it is and how stupid it is. So you tell me that show wasn't entertaining. I think it was great. I'm yelling into the mic because I love it so much.
Yeah, bring it, Voyager G0, in the comments.
I want to see your comment.
We will respond to you next week, and we will be even more angry, and this internet battle will go on for generations.
You know, at my work, they've started airing. They have that TV, and they air the commercials. They started. There's a new Naruto game that comes out next week, and the ad for it's just so obnoxious. Like, it's the typical anime voices, and it's like just really weirdly paced if you've seen the commercial. And then there's this one part of the commercial where they just start yelling, and it just sounds like it's great.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it's like these battle will go on for generations, and that's what that reminded me of right there. So
Love it.
Thank you all for listening to Effortless. I'm Dr. Piddle. He's or something. That's Piddle. I'm Spiegel.
I'm something.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Okay.
Piddle something.
We will never get an
Over and
outro
out.
right. We're never gonna get an outro right. This is.
Now get 2 delicious tastes for just $2. The McPick 2 menu. Mix and match new melty mozzarella sticks with a juicy McDouble or golden fries with a classic McChicken. Only $2 for any 2. Hurry in and choose your faves for just $2. It's the tastiest deal yet. Just ask for it.